The pension pyramid. It began with a promise, a simple, sacred one. Every paycheck, every month, for decades, government employees across several U.S. states contributed to a retirement system they trusted completely. It was called the National Public Employees Pension Fund, NPEF, a $112 billion program designed to guarantee security for over 2.3 million workers. Teachers, firefighters, healthcare workers, their futures depended on it. But in 2021, an anonymous email arrived at the Office of the Inspector General. It contained a single line. The numbers don't match the lives they represent. Attached was a spreadsheet labeled Fund Allocations _ 2016-2020. Excel. What looked like a routine set of financial transfers soon drew the attention of forensic accountant Daniel Cross, a veteran investigator known for tracing invisible money trails. The spreadsheet showed hundreds of private investment vehicles, offshore partnerships supposedly generating high yields. But when Cross compared them to Security and Exchange Commission, SEC, filings, nearly 40% didn't exist. Some had been deregistered years earlier. Others were owned by shell entities in Malta and the British Virgin Islands. The deeper he dug, the clearer the pattern became. Billions had been funneled from the pension fund into a maze of fictitious ventures, energy startups, real estate funds, and social impact projects that never operated. Instead, they served as conduits for laundering stolen contributions into personal wealth. The name at the center of the web, Harold Benton, Chief Investment Officer of the National Public Employees Pension Fund. Benton had joined the agency in 2009, lauded for his Wall Street experience. Under his tenure, the fund reported consistent 12% returns, impressive numbers that secured him praise from both the media and state governors. But in reality, Benton was using a classic Ponzi method, paying old returns with new contributions. Whenever the fund was audited, he relied on forged performance reports, manipulated valuation data, and compliant external auditors who were either complicit or blind. Cross's team reconstructed the flow of funds using advanced forensic analytics, data matching pension payments, bank statements, and internal memos. The results were staggering. Over $8.6 billion had vanished over 10 years. The investigation uncovered Benton's secret strategy: redirect pension investments into offshore, alternative assets. Create fake valuation reports to justify profits. Use shell companies to siphon money into political campaigns, luxury properties, and personal accounts. Every layer was built on deception, a pyramid of lies supported by fear, loyalty, and greed. The forensic team uncovered luxury condos in Miami, vineyard estates in California, and even private jet leases tied to Benton's initials. But one transaction stood out: a $48 million transfer labeled Community Infrastructure Initiative. The recipient was a company registered to Benton's wife under her maiden name. That discovery changed everything. The OIG authorized a full-scale joint operation with the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. Surveillance teams monitored Benton's movements, while forensic accountants quietly mirrored his digital records. It was during a Sunday night data sync that Cross found the smoking gun, an internal memo instructing staff to restate fund performance metrics prior to board review. In simpler terms, falsify the books. Cross recalled in an interview, it wasn't just numbers. Every forged report represented a broken promise to a teacher, a nurse, a firefighter counting on that pension. When the FBI made its move in February 2022, Benton was on a golf trip in Scottsdale, Arizona. Agents surrounded his resort suite as forensic auditors simultaneously froze accounts in 8 countries. Within 48 hours, over $1.3 billion in recoverable assets were secured. But the true cost of the fraud couldn't be measured in dollars. Retired workers began receiving letters warning of temporary benefit adjustments. For many, that meant losing the homes and health care they'd worked their lives to earn. One retired school principal, Marjorie Allen, broke down during a press conference. "They stole our future, not just the money, the trust." The media frenzy was immediate. The pension pyramid became the headline on every major news outlet. Lawmakers scrambled to distance themselves, claiming ignorance of Benton's misconduct. Yet the investigation revealed deep political entanglements. Campaign finance records showed that several state officials had received donations funneled through Benton's offshore entities. The corruption was systemic. During congressional hearings, the atmosphere was tense. Benton appeared stoic, in a dark suit, flanked by high-priced attorneys. Under oath, he denied wrongdoing, claiming market volatility and external advisors caused temporary liquidity issues. But forensic evidence told a different story. Cross presented a timeline of transactions to the committee: wire transfers, false audits, internal memos, and a complete reconstruction of Benton's hidden accounts. The data visualization was damning. The pattern was undeniable: theft disguised as management. When prosecutors displayed photographs of Benton's secret properties, including a $22 million villa in Tuscany registered under a charity name, the courtroom went silent. By August 2022, Benton and 6 co-conspirators were indicted on charges of fraud, conspiracy, and racketeering. 3 pleaded guilty and testified that Benton had ordered them to fabricate reports and destroy backups before each audit cycle. In one email recovered from the fund's IT server, Benton wrote, "If the truth comes out, we all go down. Keep the books clean and the noise low." But the truth did come out. The forensic team's reconstruction became one of the largest financial recovery efforts in U.S. history. More than $6 billion was eventually traced and repatriated to the pension system. Benton, however, was sentenced to 45 years in federal prison with no chance of parole. In a final statement before sentencing, Daniel Cross spoke to reporters. "You can rebuild the system. You can't rebuild trust. That's the real damage here." The fallout led to sweeping reform. Congress passed the Public Pension Accountability Act, mandating independent forensic audits for all large-scale government funds every 3 years. For Cross and his team, it was another case closed, but one that left scars. The letters from retirees, the tears, the anger, they served as a reminder that financial crimes don't just bankrupt institutions. They bankrupt lives. Years later, Cross would receive an anonymous note in his office mail. "Because you didn't give up, my mother still has her home. Thank you." He never found out who sent it, but he kept it framed on his desk. Moral and call to action. The measure of any institution is not its wealth, but its integrity. When those entrusted with public trust exploit it for personal gain, they don't just commit fraud, they commit betrayal. Demand transparency. Support accountability. Because justice isn't just about punishing the guilty, it's about protecting the innocent.